You know, folks, the whole world is talking about Bitcoin. Want to know why? Maybe it's because Bitcoin rose in value over 150% last year, and this is just the beginning. Bitcoin is online investing that anyone can do. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org today. Take a master class. Download the Book of Bitcoin and take your investment portfolio to the next level. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org and discover all that a Bitcoin can do for you. That's bitcoinuniversity.org, bitcoinuniversity.org.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. Let us sing the song of cheer again. Happy days are here again.
Well, we have swiped that song from the Democratic Party, and we're going to make that song for all Americans because it looks like America is on the right track. And in the studio with us today is Judge Richard Weinberg. We have, Deputy Mayor, used to be a Deputy Mayor, Rudy Washington, rumored to be related to George Washington, and me and Rita Cosby. Rita, a lot of things happening today. Tell me about happy days.
Oh, my God. Well, by the way, Trump is like fast-tracking his administration, his next administration, like I've never seen. I mean, we've covered a lot of presidents here, but to see all the nominations, many of them coming in the last, 1 to 2 hours, John. Tulsi Gabbard with National Intelligence. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, came out yesterday. Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary. Vivek and Elon Musk, the Department of Efficiency, government efficiency. Boy, they're going to have their hands full, Rudy. And Matt Gaetz, this one coming down like a bombshell as Attorney General.
Now, let me tell you, the first thing with people said, how can he make a former, what was the Fox guy, a captain?
Yeah, he was a Fox host.
How can he make a captain, the head of the Pentagon? Well, he doesn't trust any of the generals. And rumor is he's going to fire a lot of them because, by the way, there's 26,000 people in the Pentagon. What is 26,000 bureaucrats doing in the Pentagon?
And Pete, I know Pete Hegseth. Pete and I are friends. And Pete is one of the hosts on Fox and Friends Weekend. Pete is also, to your point, he is a combat veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan. And John, he just wrote a book on how the military has gone too woke and needs to be cleaned up.
And he's been the voice of veterans.
Yes.
Since he's shown
past 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
he's been
very
the voice
much.
of
Yeah,
veterans.
he's a smart guy, I understand.
Yeah, went to Princeton.
But he didn't want, I mean, how many of those generals and how many of those CIA guys screwed President Trump?
A lot of them. And that's why they're shaking in their boots.
Hey, 51 intelligence guys signed off that he was working for Russia. Give me a break.
Give me a break. Think about all the work they have done.
Intelligence and the guys that they used it for, I don't think goes hand in hand.
Is that an oxymoron? Is that what that's called?
Oxymoron.
Maybe it's a moron.
Well, John, Katz, that Afghanistan debacle, every general that had their hands into that should turn in their papers today, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
If I was the president, I agree with the president. If I was the president, you have to clean house. And the other thing I said to people today is it's good. I mean, we suffered a lot. It's good that Trump had 4 years off.
He's learned.
Because he has learned a tremendous amount of things.
Yeah, he's learned, first of all, who to clean house with. And also, clearly, look, he got a mandate, you guys. I mean, he won, obviously, not just the electoral, he won the popular vote. The Senate, it looks like the House, obviously, some media have called it, but it looks like it's going to be the House. I mean, the American public have spoken and said they want a reform presidency. They want a reform country. They want change. That's what they voted for, Rudy.
His first administration, he really turned it over to the RNC, the staff.
Yes, you're right.
And not people, because I thought for sure we would have known right here in New York 25% of his cabinet, because he would have picked So all the people he was picking, it had me scratching my head. I mean, so this time around, he's picking people loyal to him.
Yeah, people that he knows.
He
People
learned
that
his
he
lessons
knows.
well.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
learned.
No question. By the way, so he had a meeting today, you guys, with President Biden. Think about that moment.
And we're going to have Michael Goodwin on.
Yes.
And he's going to give us a hint of what they talked about.
He's going to give us the good inside scoop. We saw a little bit of it. I mean, John, it was a wild moment to see President Biden saying, welcome back. Congratulations.
President Biden had a big smile on his face.
Yes, a huge
I think he's
smile.
glad that Kamala lost.
John, I have never seen President Biden so full of energy and joy. First after she lost when he spoke at the Rose Garden, and today he was like a Cheshire cat.
You think they talked about it?
What do you
I'm
think?
sure
Rudy?
they talked about it. I am sure they. And what are the revelations on FEMA? That the person that they fired said this is going on all over the place.
Yeah, that's scary. Judge Weinberg, this woman comes forward and says it's not just me.
An absolute major scandal. It needs to be investigated, and I believe there's criminal acts here, and I certainly believe there's civil acts here. This was awful. It couldn't be more awful. And if this wasn't just one person doing this, but this was a policy or a pattern in practice out of FEMA, it's absolutely outrageous. By the way, there are a couple other issues. Senator Thune, John Thune, South Dakota, has been selected by his colleagues, the United States Senate.
Senate Majority Leader.
Senate Majority Leader. Very important position, very well-qualified guy. You had three wonderful candidates. You had Senator Cornyn of Texas. You had Senator Scott of Florida. And you had Senator Thune. We know them all.
Yeah, all great guys.
All first-rate people. And my congratulations to Senator Thune.
Judge, I wanted you to tell our listeners what the FEMA issue was about.
Yeah. And also, by the way, the woman came forward. The interesting thing, this woman said that she skipped over a number of homes that had Trump signs because she thought it was antagonistic, obviously against her principles.
So she,
right, I mean, who were devastated by the hurricane in Florida.
That's not her
Rudy.
job to make a political judgment.
It isn't. But what gets worse, Judge, is that in addition to this, she came forward and said, you're firing me. This was essentially a common practice within FEMA. And think about all the people that were devastated by the hurricane, not just in Florida, but in North Carolina.
What happens if they didn't rescue somebody and they died?
The whole agency needs to be investigated.
No.
Find out
that's
who
not
is doing
Michael
this.
Goodwin is waiting for us.
All right, so let's go to Michael Goodwin. Mike, and we are fired up today, Michael. Michael, first, let's get to you with this big, huge meeting with President Biden and President-elect Trump. We all saw the biggest smile on Biden's face, it seemed.
Yeah, it's hard. There are so many tea leaves, it's hard to read them all. But you have to think that Biden's appearance and what he has said and the fact that they spent so much time alone, or I guess with just one aide each, it does raise questions about what they were really talking about. President Trump told the Post they were talking about essentially Ukraine and the Israel conflict, and that he wanted to get Joe Biden's positions and views and knowledge on them. And for this meeting to go on 2 hours, I think is quite something. And it's interesting. I mean, they're both, they've both been around a long time. They've both been president. They know what it's like. And so that despite these huge differences, which of course included Biden calling Trump basically a Nazi and everything else, that they could sit there and have this conversation, be civil about it, and at least from Trump's point of view, it was very useful and collegial. I think that's wonderful for the country.
Yeah, I do too. They kept talking, by the way, smooth transition. Yes, smooth transition. And again, Biden just seems relieved. It's almost like it's a different Biden we've seen since Kamala lost.
Well, it's funny, I think they have something in common, right? That neither one of them wanted Kamala Harris to be president. And I think that for Biden, Biden is really in this very awkward position where he has been abandoned by his own party while he's still president. And the person who was given the nod over him was soundly defeated. And so I think that he has some standing now to say, I told you that she was not up to it, and I told you I would be better. Now, we actually have him, New York Post had the lip reader. Lip reader. Thank you very much. The phrase escaped me, but that he said to Barack Obama at the Ethel Kennedy funeral that I'm stronger than she is, and that goes down in history that he may well have been. We'll never know, of course, and he was not strong when he was forced off the ticket, but she never quite measured up, and it became impossible to
it wasn't
view
supposed
her
to
as
be
president.
Michael, it wasn't supposed to be her, because if it's Barack Obama, President Obama, orchestrating it along with Nancy Pelosi, it wasn't supposed to be.
It's supposed to be a
Kamala.
primary. It's supposed to be a primary.
Obama wanted to take it a different direction, and the only reason is when President Biden realized that he's been cooed. Then he jumped and says, "Let's go to Kamala." That's how it happened.
Yeah, because remember, first he resigned, John, and then it was a few minutes later, I support Kamala, and he kind of shut down the primary.
Well, of course. That's exactly what he did.
It was
So who says he's lost? So who said he lost all his brains? He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, blank you.
Well,
right?
they boxed themselves in, because there's no way they would have gotten rid of Kamala Harris without a real firestorm. I mean, so
I agree with you, Rudy. I think that was the minute they passed over Biden and pushed him off, there was no other avenue for the party. You would have divided the party. Women would have been furious. Perhaps many black voters would have been furious. I think many rank-and-file Democrats would have said, "Well, how are we going to have this primary system by phone?" I mean, don't forget, it was the end of July we're talking about here. Biden had the 98% of the Democrats, the delegates had voted for him. He was officially, it happens at the convention, but he was all but officially the nominee. He received all the delegates' votes. They had fought to keep others off of the ballot. Remember, RFK Jr., Dean Phillips, they all wanted to run in the primary. The party kept them off and handed it to Biden, and now suddenly they were handing it to somebody else. I mean, it was a very strange sequence of events, and I think at some point Joe Biden will write about this, and I think it will be fascinating because there's still a lot we don't know about what was said. For me, the big outstanding question is, did they threaten to use the 25th Amendment to force him out and to force him out of the presidency if he didn't get off the ticket? That, to me, is the big question that I have.
Yeah, the nice way, or remember they said Nancy Pelosi said we can do it the
easy
tough
way or the hard way.
Right. That's like 25th or not.
She's one tough lady.
Yeah, she sure is.
Michael, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about these appointments that President-elect Trump is making?
Well, look, I think overall what they really reflect is Donald Trump's determination to shake up Washington. This is of course about his agenda, but today I watching these names roll out the last couple of days, I thought this is beyond just the things he said. This is really about shaking up Washington, and particularly this idea of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy going after roughly a third of the federal budget. Now, will they get there? That's hard to envision. Nonetheless, whatever they do is gravy, and it's an improvement over where we are. I think many of these picks are very interesting in their own right. They show the Trump stamp on the government, on the bureaucracy. Of course, the Matt Gaetz one is, I think, the most problematic. And I would like to hear President Trump explain that more, because
I'll give you my analysis. One less problem for Mike Johnson.
Well, that's quite of a failing up solution.
The Peter principle.
But look, he really undermined Kevin McCarthy, whom I thought Trump was close to and supported. Gates really drove him out of that job. I think Gates spent a lot of Republican energy and time when there wasn't much of either during this last 2 years, and I think it hurt the party. It hurt the party's image. It looked as though it couldn't govern. So I'm not really sure why Matt Gaetz is being rewarded by Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Michael Goodwin, thank you very much. We always love having you on, Michael Goodwin. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you. And, John, I understand we now have Newt Gingrich calling in. Take it away.
Well, with us today is former Speaker Newt Gingrich, and so many things are happening. Well, we need one smart guy to tell us what the heck is happening. Newt, what is happening? Give us your evaluation of what's going on in America today. It looks like we saved America.
Well, I think the American people saved America. I think they rallied with Trump. That would have been a catastrophic presidency. And I'm watching President Trump create the most reform-oriented cabinet in my lifetime. I just saw literally they announced that Tulsi Gabbard is going to be the Director of National Intelligence. As you know, Pete Hegseth is going to be the Secretary of Defense. They have Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. I mean, they're really putting together an amazing team, and it's going to be a team that is dedicated, I think, to profoundly reforming the government. And I'm just now writing a piece for the New York Sun about the whole idea of the commission that Elon is going to be doing along with Vivek, and I think a Musk-Ramaswamy commission to rethink the government could end up being astonishing. So I think Trump is on a roll. I think he has thought about this for 4 years. Ironically, from the standpoint of the left, driving him out of office in 20 gave him 4 years to think through how to really change things. And I think he's coming back stronger and with a greater commitment to saving the country than when he left.
I think he's going to become a better president for having 4 years to think about everything that was wrong. And I agree with you. I think you're right. And people ask me about why did he pick that Fox person for Department of Defense. I said I don't think he trusted any of the generals.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I've known Hegseth for a good while. And if you want to send a signal that the entire current establishment has discredited itself, then I think this is the right signal. Now, it's going to be interesting to watch because, it's going to take enormous courage and resilience on the part of Pete Hegseth to survive over there because the whole old order is going to try to destroy him. But I've been actively involved in thinking about and working on defense for an extraordinarily long time, and I can tell you the building needs a very complete overhaul. I had one senior person in the military who retired, who was working with Trump, who said he would recommend the president have every 3- and 4-star general retire and then go down to 2 stars to pick a whole new generation of leaders because he thinks between Obama and Biden, the whole system has just been undermined and corrupted. And, you look at the Afghanistan retreat, not a single person paid for a disaster. No one. There was no accountability at all. You look at these big, giant corporations. Boeing has done a terrible job, cost overruns, incompetencies, and yet they get more contracts. And you compare SpaceX, which cost about 10% of what Boeing cost to do a particular mission, and it's astonishing. So I think sending somebody like Hegseth in is a way of saying to the building, there is going to be really profound change. And frankly, you have to ask yourself the question, do we really want to keep the Pentagon as such? It's 26,000 bureaucrats sitting around in a building that was designed for carbon paper and manual typewriters. And now you have all this modern equipment, and why do we still have 26,000 people sitting there? I
think it just keeps building and building and building. And I think we do have a serious problem. I think the president is leaving it up to Elon Musk and Vivek, and the people around the president are starting to resent them, and I wonder why.
Well, look, I think anytime you're dealing with this level of power and this kind of charismatic leader, now there are a lot of jealousies, and everybody wants to know how close to the leader can I get. And if somebody else is sitting closer to him, I wonder why did they get to sit next to him and I didn't? And it's just part of his, as a historian, it's just part of the way life works. Trying to change that's like trying to get cats and dogs to like each other. It doesn't happen very often.
Or the Palestinians and the Israelis to like each other.
That's right.
After 2,000, 3,000 years or 4,000 years, it's still difficult.
And by the way, I think that sending Governor Huckabee to Jerusalem is going to be a very interesting decision. And I think, Mike, I think he's had 300 trips to Israel in the course of his life. And he's deeply committed to the survival of Israel. And I think it'll be a very interesting appointment. And again, it's just an example that Trump is consistently thinking outside the box.
And like I said, I think he got smarter with being on the beach for 4 years.
Well, I think that's right. I think he had a chance to really think about what people had been doing to him, what parts of the bureaucracy he could not get to work, and what it would take to get America back in the game. I mean, I'm very worried when you look at how small our Navy is, how bad our shipbuilding is. You look at how expensive our fighter aircraft are. There are a lot of good reasons for us to be very concerned as a country right now.
And our $20 billion aircraft carriers that can be knocked out by a hypersonic missile. One last question. What do you think the new majority leader, John Thune, do you know him at all, or Mike Johnson?
Callisto worked with John on the Agriculture Committee, and we like him very much. He's a good guy, and I think he'll probably be very effective as a leader. He bridges everybody, and I think he will work closely with the president. And I like Mike Johnson a lot. I have to tell you, having been Speaker, I could not do the job he's doing. It is his margin is so narrow, and the House is so challenging right now. I just have enormous admiration for him. He has integrity, he has courage, he's intelligent, and he's carrying a big burden. Probably has the hardest job in Washington today.
I agree with you. And if they keep taking away Congress people and promoting them, it's going to make it even tighter margin.
I think that's exactly right. And I think, and he knows that, and he's told that to the president. But on the other hand, having somebody of the caliber of Elise go to the United Nations, that's really tremendous. And having a member of the House go to be the National Security Advisor, you can't complain. And of course, a former member of the House is now going to be the head of the CIA. So, and Tulsi also was a member of the House at one time, so she's going to be the director of national intelligence. So, in a way, you can say the House has been a pretty good place for people to move up from. Well,
Newt, thank you for coming on. And now that we saved America, we got to save some of our inner cities.
Yep, well, I think one of Trump's commitments ought to be to try to turn the cities red so that they actually have jobs, have safety, and have decent, honest government. That would be a pretty good project.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Newt. I mean, Newt is one smart guy, and I trust him.
I love hearing from Newt on a day like today, too.
What I'm nervous about is the economy. And next we're going to have Steve Moore, because the markets are going up, they're going down. What's really going on? In the Fed cut rates, but the treasuries went up.
You know what I can't wait to ask him about? This new Department of Government Efficiency created by Vivek and Elon Musk. How much cutting?
Let's take that break.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back, and with us today is Steve Moore. Steve, the economy. Has anybody figured it out yet?
Hey, Steve, can you hear us? Steve, call us back. Maybe he hasn't figured out the economy yet, John. That was a big question. You know what? I can't wait to ask him.
Tough question. Nobody should answer.
Yeah. I can't wait to. Oh, here he is. Steve, are you back?
I am. I was hearing you. You weren't hearing me.
So,
but
what do you make? That was a big question John was posing you.
I know it was, and I was thinking. Look, I think, first of all, the market has been so up, since we had a couple down days, but, overall, this signals not just American investors, but global investors all over the world are very bullish about what's going to happen in this country over the next 2 or 3, 4 years. And they're right to be, because we're going to cut taxes. We're going to be pro-investor, pro-business, pro-worker, pro-America. We're going to, as you know, all the things that we've been talking about.
Well, say those things again.
Okay. Pro-worker, pro-investor, pro-business, and pro-America.
I want to hear something. Hold on.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, keep going.
Pro-investor, pro-markets.
Let me just say something, John. Everywhere I go, and I've been traveling a lot, even just in the last 8 days, I'm in Florida today, and I may see the president. What should I tell him?
Tell him we're trying to figure out what he did with Mike Getz.
Yeah, really. Time to rethink that.
God.
Time to rethink that.
I'm not going to bring that one up.
Don't bring that up. Don't bring it up.
What do you make?
Listen, I met the guy. He's not a bad person, but, just everybody caught everybody by surprise.
But you know what's interesting? He does have a law background. He's on the Judiciary Committee. What do you make of the lightning speed of all this? And what about the Vivek and Musk decision?
Well, that's
interesting. Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really talk about the Attorney General situation. You guys know a lot more about that than I do. You can ask the judge about that
one.
Go
back to the economy.
Yeah, go back to Vivek and the
Get back in your lane. Get back in your lane.
I really think that this is going to be an historic commission. What are they calling it?
It's the Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE.
I want to
Steve,
put an hour.
I think Elon Musk is going to save the American people $1 trillion.
Too. I think he is, and there's hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars waste, fraud, inefficiency. We got programs that go back.
How about people that don't show up? How many federal employees don't show up 5 days a week?
Yeah, only 6%. Excuse me, only 6% of the federal workers are showing up for 40 hours a week on the job.
Wait.
6%.
Steve, 6.
6.
That is incredible. Show up for 40 hours? You got to be kidding me.
And a lot of these people, because I live in the swamp, a lot of them have second jobs, and they're collecting a government paycheck and then a private sector paycheck, and they're nobody's checking to see whether they're actually working at home. A lot of them, they're playing golf or tennis in the middle of the afternoon, and they're ripping off taxpayers. So, and by the way, nobody even knows they're not on the job. John, if you go into some of these cavernous, massive government buildings in Washington, go down Pennsylvania Avenue, and you walk into the Interior Department or the Agriculture Department or the Labor Department, there's nobody there. You go into all these empty offices, and you're like, maybe we should sell the office buildings, for goodness sakes, and then get rid of these people.
They're all at Dunkin' Donuts, Steve.
Yeah, but by the way, you heard that Elon Musk said the other day he thought he could save $2 trillion. Now, that's a lot, and I think that's more than probably is capable of doing, but you could save a lot. And when he was asked by a reporter, did you see when they said, do you really think you could cut $2 trillion? He said, look, when I took over Twitter, I cut their expenses by 80%. So can you imagine if he cut even 50% of federal expenditures? We could balance
26,000 people, 26,000 people at the Pentagon.
Unbelievable.
What
the
heck
biggest
are they doing?
bureaucracy in the world. And I'm for a strong defense. All of you are, and all of your listeners are. But come on, we could easily save 10, 20, 30, $40 billion just getting rid of the bureaucracy at the Pentagon. These aren't the people who are keeping. Now, some of them are, but a lot of it's just people who have been there for 40 years or just they used to be, punching a time clock. Now they're not even doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. Well, thank you so much, Steve Moore. We love having you. I'm going to remember that 6%. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Don't forget what Ronald Reagan said. The closest thing to immortality on this earth is a government program.
Thanks, Steve.
Rita, how about some hot news?
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, we've been talking about this, the lightning speed appointments by President Trump to his new administration. Former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is being selected by President-elect Trump to be his Director of National Intelligence. President Trump, just in the last hour or so, also nominating Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio is being nominated for Secretary of State. Additionally, South Dakota's John Thune has been named the new leader of Senate Republicans. And Special Counsel Jack Smith is leaving before President-elect Trump assumes office. I know you're very sad about that, Rudy Washington. Isn't that sound? Remember, President Trump told us, John, during that big interview we did on Katz and Cosby, that he would fire Smith on day one.
And I wanted to see it.
I know you wanted to. We would have gone. And those are the big hot stories of the day, everybody. And coming up, we got Victoria Coates, John Yoo, and Kelly Ann Conway. An awesome show ahead.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. This is stunning. A CIA official with top security clearance now has been charged for leaking highly classified documents about Israel's plans to strike Iran. Yet another sort of bad apple in the batch. And joining us now is former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Victoria, we love having you here on the show. I mean, what is going on? No wonder Trump wants to clean up house.
Oh, absolutely, Rita. I mean, this is an absolute disgrace, and it tells you what the culture is like, not only at the CIA, but across the Biden-Harris administration, where this has been permissible. We've had endless leaks about sensitive material on Israel. The only reason they're policing this one up is because they're doing a cover their posterior operation before President Trump and his team comes in, with John Ratcliffe going into the CIA. He's going to root all of this out. But it's broader than that. But what's really disgraceful here is this person who was working overseas in one of our stations somehow accessed information he probably had no business accessing because it wasn't in his portfolio. He appears to have been in Southeast Asia. So why he's looking at information that the Israelis actually shared with us about their plans on Iran is a mystery. I mean, that should have been a flag to begin with. But that he would then leak it on an Iranian-related Telegram channel is just disgraceful. And so, President Trump and his team can't get there soon enough.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many others. I mean, you think about the Robert Malley, Victoria, too, I got to get your reaction to this. I was watching Jake Sullivan today, who is President Biden's national security advisor. And he was asked by the press, what's the advice you're going to give to Michael Waltz, Congressman Michael Waltz, who we've had here on the show many times, Green Beret, the new national security advisor for Trump, who's coming in. And he said, I told him that you got to be tough on Iran and its proxies, that's a big issue. And I'm thinking, where have you been, Jake Sullivan, for the last 4 years? He articulated, you got to be tough on Iran. What a joke. When you look at the way the Biden administration's handled Iran and, Hezbollah, Hamas. I mean, it's disgraceful.
No, it really is. And it's been such a permissive environment for them. And Congressman Waltz, we're thrilled with the appointment at Heritage. He was with us, 2 weeks ago for an event for his new book. So if people want to know his views on Iran, uninformed by Jake Sullivan's wisdom, they can look no further than his recently published book, which is, I think, what got the president's attention. And he's got a great America First view. He's a retired Green Beret. He understands our men and women who serve in the most dangerous areas, and he does not want to put them into danger needlessly. So I don't think he needs a lot of, as I said, Jake Sullivan's wisdom.
Victoria, this is Rudy Washington. What would it mean if President Trump designate the cartel as a terrorist organization?
It's an interesting question, Rudy, and it makes a lot of sense because I think they meet all of the sort of criteria of a terrorist organization, and having worked on the project to name the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps at FTO, it's a hard process. And we also worked on the Houthi project. They meet a lot of the criterion. The problem would actually, in this case, be an immigration problem, because under that designation, those who feel under threat from an FTO can then claim asylum in the United States. And so we would need to balance that with what Tom Homan and Stephen Miller and Governor Noem are now going to be trying to do in terms of immigration, so that we're not making a bigger problem for them through that designation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Victoria Coates, thank you so much. We love having you here, Victoria. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you. And John, I understand John Yoo is calling in now?
John Yoo is calling in.
And joining us now here on Katz and Cosby is Professor John Yoo. He is the Emanuel S. Heller Professor of Law at the University of California in Berkeley. Professor Yoo, boy, oh boy, where do we start? Let's start with all of these legal cases against President Trump. Your thoughts?
I think President Trump is going to win all of them. If you'd asked me, I think you did 2 years ago, I don't think I would have said that. But his campaign against lawfare has been an incredible success. Take the most serious charges. And I'm not one of those people who says, the president can never be investigated no matter what he does. But take, the severe cases, I think he could. But these cases were so ginned up and were so mistaken and were not serious. And Donald Trump defeated all of them. So take, for example, the most serious one, the 2 special counsel investigations by Jack Smith for January 6th. We've gone over the show all the problems with these cases. But Donald Trump went to the Supreme Court, won a case finding that he has presidential immunity for his actions when he was president. They're taken in his official duties. He's won the election. He's now the president. You could say, in a way, the American people were the jury, and the American people rendered their verdict on whether President Trump was responsible for January 6th. And I think they said no.
Yeah, they said no. And by the way, did you see Jack Smith today as saying that he's planning to resign soon? I mean, obviously the writing's on the wall, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Trump has the power. The president has the power to fire Jack Smith. And so he should resign immediately, because he's going to get fired by. In fact, I always thought the best thing President Biden could have done, right? President Biden, who welcomed Donald Trump into the Oval Office today, said congratulations, and he should have said, and I'm firing Jack Smith. That would have been a great way to start the healing process that we need to have after the abuse of the legal system, the abuse of prosecution to interfere in our elections. So Jack Smith, that whole thing thrown out the window. No prosecution is going to be brought. Maybe Jack Smith issues a report of what he's found. But as far as I can tell, he added nothing new to anything we didn't learn from the congressional committee. The other major case. Sorry.
You're in California. You live there. I could not understand how your governor, Governor Newsom, said that you're not allowed to ask any voter for their IDs or anything like that. What's the feeling of what's going on in California?
I think people in California are in shock, and they should be in shock. They are in shock because they can't believe that the rest of the country sees California as becoming a failed state. Take, for example, the policy you just talked about. You're not allowed to ask for IDs when people vote in California. It's incredible. California also has a law, right, saying that school teachers can conceal from their parents whether their kids want to be transgender. You could just go on and on. The high tax rates, the overregulation, the terrible crime.
What happened is, Professor, is the President Trump said, let's make it too big of a win for anybody to rig. And I think that's what happened. And the other interesting thing is that the only states that Kamala Harris won are the ones that don't require voter ID.
Yeah, look, this is all. Look, she also. I wouldn't say she lost California. But you look, even the voters of California are sick and tired of her, sick and tired of Gavin Newsom and this failed liberal progressive approach to governance. Out here where I live, the mayor of Oakland was just recalled. The district attorney out here was just recalled. The mayor had just lost to someone whose only campaign pledge was, I'm going to make the streets safe again.
And by the way, thank God DA George Gascon, who was like the softest on crime DA in the country, Professor Yu, he also got the boot. By the way, before we let you go, Professor John Yu, this is stunning about FEMA. This FEMA worker who now has come out, she got fired because she was saying she skipped over the Trump homes. These were people in dire need during the hurricanes. And now she's coming out in interviews saying that this was, kind of common practice. This wasn't a one-off. What needs to be done and what can be done legally, not just to her, but to if there's others? This is really scary.
I completely agree, Rita. And I think Kristi Noem, upon taking office or as a secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, should launch an investigation, find out everyone who was involved in the policy, and they should all be fired. It's a violation of federal law, and they should be also investigated for criminal violations. You can't condition whether the government helps you or not based on your politics. Just like we would say you're not allowed to hire people for the civil service, whether Republican, Democrat. I mean, under this theory that this employee was pursuing, you could say only Democrats get Social Security checks, I suppose. This is a terrible cancer within our government that
how do you make the recompense also, Professor, to the people who lost everything, who were in dire need, and they got passed over? Remember, at first it's a conspiracy that Trump people. How do you make up for that huge loss at their dire need?
That's a great point. I should have thought of that first. Is that first thing, even before you investigate and fire all the employees, is that you go out to those people and you make sure that the federal government supports them financially, helps them rebuild their houses, rebuild their lives after they were passed over by these terrible, terrible government employees.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much to get into. John Yu, we love having you here. Professor John Yu, you're terrific. And thank you so much for joining us here on Katz and Cosby.
Oh, thanks. Anytime. Please feel free to call me. It's going to be an exciting 4 years.
Yes. We saved America. Now it's time to save New York and Los Angeles.
Let's not get crazy now. There's some things beyond saving.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Thank you, Professor Yu. Wow. Yep, he's funny. Yep. I love him. He's great. And, John, coming up, we have Kellyanne Conway, of course, who ran that enormously successful campaign for President Trump. She's going to be with us right after the break. You definitely don't want to miss this.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And joining us now is Kellyanne Conway, of course, a rock star. She ran the enormously successful 2016 campaign for President Trump, the first female to win that for a president. Bravo, bravo. And Kellyanne, we're so happy to have you here. What do you make of all the appointments today? My goodness.
It's been quite a flurry, Rita. I'm so happy to be with my friends and this Rockstar Radio show, Rita Cosby and John Catsimatidis. Thank you for having me. Look, if I hear one more left-wing pundit who has gotten every election and every policy detail about Donald Trump wrong in the last 10 years, say he wants loyalists, can anybody point to me the president who picked disloyal people who were also disloyal to their agenda to staff the senior apparatus at the White House and the West Wing and certainly in the cabinet? Of course he wants people who are loyal, but they're loyal to America. They're loyal patriots to the America First agenda. They are going to execute on his very specific promises, Rita and John, to lower inflation, make every day more affordable, stop this nonsense at the border, stop the fact that people are feeling just unsafe in their own communities, including right there in our beloved New York City, get out of these new wars that Biden and Harris got us entangled into, and so on and so forth. So I think nobody's been more clear about what they want to do and what they did do as President of the United States than President Trump. And he's surrounding himself with men and women who are capable, to have the authority and the agency in each of these departments and each of these positions to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. John?
Well, the Pentagon, 26,000 people there. We've been talking about it all day long. I guess he doesn't like the generals that are there right now. Is he going to do something about it? What do you think?
Well, he felt a little burnt by the generals last time around, John. He had a general at Department of Homeland Security, John Kelly, had a general at the Pentagon, Jim Mattis. I think things were going well until they didn't. And he just wants to make sure he also, in Pete Hegseth, he's made very clear he's chosen a combat veteran who also is somebody who served abroad, who also loves the Bay, is known by our veterans as somebody who's going to stick up for them and have a military that focuses on being prepared for and winning wars, not being laboratories for social experimentation. Wokeness and weakness have been infecting our military, have been infecting our Pentagon. Goodness, this country, our quote commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, didn't even know where Lloyd Austin, his Secretary of Defense, was last year when the guy was in the hospital. I'm glad he's well, but my goodness, if you don't even know where your Secretary of Defense is, and how do we have confidence that the Pentagon is running well? You just made an excellent point, though, John. People are going to start really focusing on both the enormous budgets that these department and agencies have, and then also just the huge, large staff. And may I just pose an issue that I posed to President Trump a couple months ago? What is this work from home stuff in Washington, D.C.? We're just filled with empty buildings that you and I are paying for as taxpayers. People don't go to work anymore. If you're of a certain age and health stage, if you have a condition, I'm sure you can get an exemption. But get back to work, everyone. Show an example to the rest of the nation. I think that's something else you can count on President Trump for enforcing. But at the Pentagon, we need people who, and I'm not saying everybody there does not believe this, but in every single department and agency, we've got to root out those who are there just for a job, who are going to try to thwart and stop, and worse, as we've seen, President Donald Trump. I'm loving his picks because I think that he is finding people who he has dealt with on a regular basis over a sustained number of years, and he knows, it's very important, he knows how they think, how they manage and lead, and more importantly, they know how he thinks and how he manages and leads.
You know, it's interesting, this Department of Government Efficiency, Kellyanne Conway, I think it's a brilliant idea. It's exactly to your point, run by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They're going to have a lot of work to do. There's going to be a lot of efficiency that they're going to have to go through.
I mean, how often in Washington, Rita and John, do we even find the name of a bill, piece of legislation, let alone a department, where you know what the heck it does by virtue of its name? This one's called the Department of Government Efficiency. It explains the problem and the solution in one word. And for all the celebrities, the singers, the athletes, the movie stars that Kamala, I almost forgot her name. Kamala Harris.
I think a lot of people forgot her name.
I don't think you're going to hear. I think Joe Biden and Jill Biden have forgotten her name too.
He was happy.
A lot of words were said.
Yeah. By the way,
he was
did
happy.
you see?
A lot of words were said. I saw it. A lot of words were said in the Oval Office today, but I think Kamala Harris weren't, easily off the tongues of either of them. But getting back to that, the fact is that she had celebrities around her as she was campaigning, but President Trump had people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. They are not seen as celebrities. They are seen as successful job creators and innovators. They are futurists. So a lot of people in this country look at the world's richest man, Elon Musk, including a lot of our young men in this country who are now very highly, deeply politically engaged. And what do they say, Rita and John? They don't say, oh, there's a celebrity, I want to get his autograph. They say, wow, there's a guy who fixes stuff. There's a guy who makes stuff. There's a guy who peeks around corners and sees things the rest of us maybe don't. And guess what he also does? He does a very Donald Trump thing through his strength and resilience. If the rocket doesn't launch, if it melts on it, he just starts all over again. And that really is a metaphor, just as fight after Butler, Pennsylvania, thank God, where the president's life was spared. It's just a metaphor for where we want this country to go. Strength, not weakness. Fairness, not wokeness. Innovation and job creation, not this stagnation that you see all across Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, getting back also, Kellyanne Conway, to that meeting, the Trump-Biden meeting today, he looked so happy. Joe Biden looked so happy. He seemed so happy even in the Rose Garden after Kamala lost. How do you read that? It is really fascinating.
Rita, I read it as everyone else does. It's plain and simple that Kamala Harris was put into the number 2 position in this nation, if not the most important jobs in the world, and she blew it. She never really developed a portfolio that we can look at and say, gee, we have confidence in her competence. Then it turns out that she stabbed her boss in the back, and then she ran him over. She ran him over, and then she ran away from their shared record. What were her two big lines she feasted on until she couldn't anymore? I'm not Joe Biden. I'm not Donald Trump. It left open the obvious question. Well, then who the hell are you? And when she said, I'm not Biden, I'll be different than Biden, the Bidens heard that, and the rest of the country never heard how she'd be different. So she put herself between more than a rock and a hard place. She put herself up for near certain loss. You know, Donald Trump is responsible for this, certainly. But do you know, I think she helped push along the fact that he improved geographically and demographically with such a breadth and a depth unheard of. And it's largely because she flipped one group. College-educated households, really the elites, are the only people who went for her. And I think in the case of Joe and Jill Biden, let's talk about Dr. Jill Biden, as she calls herself for a moment. This is someone who, when Kamala Harris effectively accused her husband, Joe Biden, of being a racist and a segregationist on the debate stage in 2019, Jill Biden famously said she should go F herself about Kamala Harris. And then here she comes as the vice president. I don't think did such a great job. And then the minute she got
a terrible job, terrible. I agree.
Yeah, she did a terrible job. By the way, Rita, a no-show job.
Yes.
Of Washington. I was a student. I examined the public official calendar of the vice president Kamala Harris every day, and most days it had little to nothing on it. How is this possible? How is everyone you know busier than the vice president? And now I think the Bidens see her for who she is. She made a mistake in Pennsylvania not taking Catholic Scranton Joe around with her, say to Scranton and some other places. She made a mistake because she looked disloyal and then she looked politically disoriented. I think Jill and Joe Biden over time, they'll be just fine. Their approval ratings will go up a little bit. People will remember that he stepped aside. People will remember that she got out. Jill, got out of the press, receded out of view after she lied to all of us. Joe, you did so great in the debate stage.
Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. So,
you know what, Kellyanne? I can't wait.
I hope we're going to hear about Kamala Harris anymore. I don't think we'll hear about her anymore. And we heard about this. We had to all say second gentleman. If you look at the news reports, we shouldn't be calling him a gentleman at all, second or otherwise.
Yeah. By the way, speaking, you're right, of women's rights, there's a lot in that. You know what I can't wait for, Kellyanne Conway? The book. If Joe Biden or Jill Biden writes the book of what happened that day. And Kellyanne, we just have a little bit left. Judge Weinberg, real quick, if you could.
A quick take. What do you think of the president-elect's nominees so far?
I think they reflect his will to move with energy and alacrity and not worry about betrayals from inside, Judge. And this is important. People are saying, well, it's just about personal relationships. It's just about who his family likes. No, these are people he has dealt with over time in the trenches and over some of the more difficult, darker days for President Trump out of office. So they understand him. He understands them. And I think with that 53-seat majority in the Senate, that President Trump's nominees have a very good chance of being confirmed.
Yeah, I do too. Kellyanne Conway, we love you. The first female to run a successful presidential campaign, making history all the way around, my friend.
Thank you
so
very
great
much.
to have you here. Kellyanne, thank you. And everybody, what do we all stand for?
Truth,
justice, and the American way. God bless America, everybody.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.